Hello, everyone, and we're going to continue on with day 12, chapter 12, and it's talking about having a better relationship with Christ. I'm going to go to black screen so we can focus in on everything, okay? Cool. Developing your friendship with God. He offers his friendship to the godly. This comes out of the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 32. Draw close to God, and God will draw close to you. This comes out of the book of James, chapter 4, verse 8. You are as close to God as you choose to be. Like any friendship, you must work at developing your friendship with God. It won't happen by accident. It takes desire, time, and energy. If you want a deeper, more intimate connection with God, you must learn to honestly share your feelings with Him. Trust Him when He asks you to do something and learn to care about what He cares about and desires His friendship more than anything else. I must choose to be honest with God. The first building block of a deeper relationship with God is to be completely honest about your faults and your feelings. God doesn't expect you to be perfect, but He does insist on your complete honesty. None of God's friends in the Bible were perfect. If perfection was a requirement for friendship with God, He would never be able to find friends. Fortunately, because of God's grace, Jesus is still friend of sinners. In the Bible, the friends of God were honest about their feelings, often complaining, second guessing, accusing, and arguing with the Creator. God, however, didn't seem to be bothered by their frankness. In fact, He encouraged it. God allowed Abraham to question and challenge him over the destruction of the city of Sodom. Abraham pestered God over what it would take to spare the city, negotiating with God down from 50 righteous people to 10. God also listened patiently to David's accusations of unfairness and betrayal and abandonment. God did not slay Jeremiah when he claimed that God had tricked him. Job was allowed to vent his bitterness during his ordeal, and in the end, God defended Job for being honest, and he rebuked Job's friends for being inauthentic. God told them, "You haven't been honest either with me and about me, not the way that my friend Job has. My friend Job will now pray for you, and I will accept his prayer." God doesn't expect you to be perfect, but He does insist in your complete honesty. Bitterness is the greatest barrier to friendship with God. Can God handle that kind of frank, intense honesty from you? Absolutely. A genuine friendship is built on disclosure. What may appear to have an audacity, God views as authenticity. God listens to the passionate words of His friends. He is bored with the predictable, pious cliches. To be God's friend, you must be honest with God, sharing your true feelings, not what you think you should feel or say. It's likely that you will need to confess some hidden anger and resentment at God for certain areas in your life where you felt cheated or disappointment. Until we are mature enough to understand that God uses everything for good in our lives, we harbor resentment towards God over our appearance, our background, unanswered prayers, past hurts, and other things that we would change if we were God. People often blame God for hurts caused by others. Bitterness is the greatest barrier to friendship with God. Why would I want to be God's friend if He allowed this? It's encouraging to know that all of God's closest friends, Moses, David, Abraham, Job, and others, but instead of masking their misgivings and pious cliches, they candidly voiced them openly and publicly. Expressing doubt is sometimes the first step towards your next level of intimacy with God. I must choose to obey God in faith. Every time you trust God's wisdom and do whatever He says, even when you don't understand it, you deepen your relationship with God. We don't normally think of obedience as a characteristic of friendship, and that's revered for relationships with a patient or with a boss or a superior officer, but not a friend. However, Jesus makes it clear that obedience is a condition of intimacy with Him. You are my friends if you do what I command. We must obey God not out of duty or fear or compulsion, but because we love Him and trust what He knows is best for us. We want to follow Christ out of gratitude for all that he has done for us. And in order to be closer, we must follow him. And that's how our relationship differs. Unbelievers often think that Christians obey out of obligation or guilt or fear or punishment, but the opposite is true. Because we have been forgiven and set free, we obey out of love and out of obedience, and that brings great joy. Jesus says, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. When you obey me, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father and remain in his love. I have told you this so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. I must choose to value what God values. This is what friends do when they care about each other. The more you become God's friends, the more you will care about the things that he cares about, and you will grieve the things that he grieves over, and you will rejoice over the things that pleasures him. What does God care about the most? The redemption of his people. He wants all of his lost children found. And that is the whole reason Jesus came to earth. The dearest thing to the heart of God is the death of his son. The second dearest thing is that his children share the news with others. To be a good friend of God, you must care about all the people that are around you whom God cares about. Friends of God will tell their friends about God. I must desire a friendship with God more than anything else. The Psalms are filled with examples of desire. David passionately desired to have God above all else. He used words like longing, yearning, thirsting, and hungering. He craved God. He said, the thing I seek most out of this privilege of meditating in his temple, living in his presence every day of my life, delighting in his incomparable perfection and glory. In another psalm, he said, your love means more than life to me. Jacob's passion for God's blessing on his life was so intense that he wrestled in the dirt all night with God, saying, I will not let go unless you bless me. The amazing part of this story is that God, who is all powerful, let Jacob win. God isn't offended when we wrestle with him because wrestling requires personal contact and it brings us closer to him. It is also a passionate activity, and God loves it when we are passionate with him. The more you become God's friend, the more you will care about the things that he cares about. The most important relationship, there is nothing, absolutely nothing more important than developing a friendship with God. It's a relationship that will last forever. Paul told Timothy, some of these people have missed the most important thing in their life, that they don't know God. Have you been missing out on the most important thing in your life? You can do something about it right now. Remember, it's your choice. You are as close to God as you choose to be. Okay, this closes out day 12. Let's go over our three items. Our point to ponder is I'm as close to God as I choose to be. Our verse to remember is draw close to God and God will draw close to you. That comes out of the book of James, chapter 4, verses 8. And our question to consider is what practical choices will I make today in order to grow closer to God? Okay, guys, we are going to move on to tomorrow where we'll be discussing chapter 13, day 13, worship that pleases God. Please leave a like, a comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. You have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll continue on the Purpose Driven Life Book Club.